Hi, welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion. I want to show you this caption here for a second. Okay, here we go. So, I want to review the movie Don't Look Up today. You know, for those of you on, and to show those of you on my comment section that think that I'm only a negative person or something, here's a film I really like. I know it's 4 years old, so it's not really in the current zeitgeist of films, you know, but I wanted to review this to show, you know, because I really like it, and I think it's kind of really timeless of a film in a way. Like, I think basically a lot of the commentary and satire in this is very timeless and works for, like, even to today. It really does. Even to today, it works. So, the plot of the movie is you have two scientists played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, and they see a comet, asteroid, meteor, whatever you want to call it. You can call it a comet, asteroid, meteor. It doesn't really matter what you call it. So, it's coming to Earth, and then you think it's going to basically do the usual Armageddon movie or Deep Impact movie where it basically just has the asteroid come down to Earth and the whole movie is basically trying to stop it. Well, this film decides, what if we basically, use the asteroid as like a satire they basically use it as like the perfect way to kind of satire how, like, honestly, if you're watching this, if you end up watching this movie after this, tell me in the comments if it doesn't feel like what would actually happen in real life. That's what I enjoy about this movie, is that it feels like it feels like real people versus just cartoon characters of who writers might not like. So then we have so basically the movie continues with President Meryl Streep. They say she's one person. I don't think so. I think she's another person. And again, looking at her, I pretty much can tell who that is. So can you. So she plays the president, and she's basically more obsessed with just like her cabinet picks and primary and something with Supreme Court, I think they say. And, she's more obsessed with like the politics of it than she is with the asteroid or the meteor. I can't remember whether they use comet, asteroid, or meteor right now, but yeah, so she's more obsessed. She's basically just, a politician, just more obsessed with votes and status and and like her cabinet picks and stuff than actually trying to save the Earth from the thing. The scene "Sit Tight in the Cess" that was a clip on Netflix feels like a film that could be a campaign ad in modern day. It really does. It feels, that's the thing with this film, is that the comedy is really great in this. Like, there's this one scene where Jennifer Lawrence is talking to her parents, and Meryl Streep has basically convinced her parents that if they survive the asteroid, is there a way that you could collect up the minerals from the asteroid and give it to Meryl and her son? Is there a way that you could give that to them? And it's like, I find that hysterical, and I kind of find it true to life that, like, there would be like some online thing of like if any of you survive, is there a way that you could kind of like collect up the minerals, because we kind of need those. So so while we're safe from it, if you that barely survived could help us, that'd be great. I think that's a really fun scene. There's this other really great scene involving let me try. Sorry, the computer put it in the wrong order. There's a really great scene involving Ron Perlman. See, it's basically ripping off the Armageddon movie, where you have Ron Perlman, he's the astronaut, he's going to do the Bruce Willis thing of going up there and blowing the thing up. But then at the last minute, the tech billionaire that Meryl Streep is very much allied to and very much subservient to, has pretty much decided that no, you're not going to blow it up because we need the, I guess, lithium in it, or like, or something. There's like a specific mineral they say in the movie that's in it that they need to extract. So he's rocketing up, and it's this big moment, and he's in the rocket. He's saying these lines that are obviously just because, he's the older man, so he has to be written a certain way. You know what I mean? So so he's flying up in the rocket, and then all of a sudden he like does a sharp left turn. The rocket takes like a sharp left turn, and like goes back to Earth. It was really funny because it's like, you make this whole moment and then it like cuts the sideways. Like, this movie, every time you think they're gonna do the thing that you expect it to do, where it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna do this scene and it's gonna be a whole thing. No, they actually end up going like completely the opposite direction, and it's really funny. Like here's another great example. You have the tech guy played by Mark Rylance. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. Put in the comments below how I'm supposed to say it. So he's basically every evil tech billionaire from every James Bond movie, every Hollywood movie, there's a tech billionaire villain. So he's basically that. I really like him in this. I think this is the best role this actor has done, because he basically feels like a real life version. Because a lot of Hollywood movies and stuff try to portray like the tech billionaires to be like these antisocial, unable to talk to people things, and it's like, and I like this one that's basically the same way, but he doesn't really care because he basically owns everybody and everything. So it's pretty much, and again, it depends on your personal opinions on who he is, basically. And that's what I like too, is that he's not a specific person. He's just like a variety of like probably 15 different ones or something. I mean, I guess if you really looked into it, you could find like one specific one he's supposed to be, but he's just supposed to be like just the tech Silicon Valley in general. So he's just supposed to be that in general. And I like that he's written like a James Bond villain, but like how a tech billionaire in real life would write himself as like imagine there's like a tech billionaire in real life, and they're writing themselves in a James Bond movie, and the studio says you must write yourself a villain. Well, they'll write them to be the most lovable, kind, villain, of course, right? Well, it's like this guy. It's like if that was a thing with this, it's like the guy said, yeah, I'm not that great of a guy. I'm gonna allow myself to not be the, to not be the. So this guy has an introduction here that I thought was going to be just like every other tech billionaire, where you have him with these kids and they're all holding phones, and then the algorithm that he helped create essentially brings up this video of like a duck and a kitten or something, to help him feel better or something. And it's like a mood app that helps you with your mood. So I'm like, oh, okay. So this is, when I was watching that, I was watching all the kids on the stage with the phones. I was like, oh, okay. So this is going to just be, this is just going to be normal, satire. It's going to not actually be that funny. But then the very millisecond next scene is right after that. Literally the next scene is the kids putting the phones all in this big bin, because he's taking them back. And it's like, see, that's the thing, is that it's like, between the rocket and that scene, and then he got, and then there's even this one really funny scene, okay? Now, another very favorite scene of mine is where this guy, I know you can't really see it because the picture decided not to come out as clearly as I hoped, but You know how technology is. So, so basically, I know this guy is obviously supposed to be one thing by the way he's dressed and the type of headgear they decide to give him. But but there's a really funny scene here where Jonah Hill is on stage and he basically is saying, "Don't look up. We love you and we respect you. And we just want you, we want to take care of you and make sure that you're not being fooled by looking." And he's giving this whole speech or something that you would hear from like a politician's son or something, and he's like, and then this guy, for what, just all of a sudden looks up by accident. He sees the asteroid, and then he's like, "He effing lied to us," and he starts throwing these beer bottles at him. And no joke, Jonah Hill goes immediately from like, "Look, can't we all just get along and come together?" to "Shut up, you stupid redneck." And that's like, and I believe that is the thing. I believe there's a politician on stage, either party, and he's like, "I come together, let's love each other," and all of a sudden someone was throwing bottles at them, and Secret Service grabbed the guy. He's like, "Shut up, that stupid redneck. Tell him to sit down." I love that scene. I love a lot of scenes in this movie because, again, there's a lot of this that feels very like actually connected to like real life, versus movies like Mickey 17 have decided that they're just gonna kind of only like SNL one guy that they don't like, and maybe two if you really are being generous. But this film basically just says, yeah, we're all like, if an asteroid hit us, it was coming at us, we're probably not in the greatest hands here. So here we have the two news people. They're apparently, besides this one other guy on, I'm not going to tell you who I think these people are, but you can very much tell by like pictures and different, like, if you watch the movie, you can clearly tell who they're supposed to be. So you have the two morning news people here, and they basically told them that, we don't want to upset people. So basically we're just going to not let you talk about the asteroid in such a negative way because we don't want to scare people. Again, I don't really believe that part, but I do believe I don't believe the attitude that they wouldn't like, that they'd be like, "No, we can't tell people about the comet." But I do believe that, like, if their ratings told them that they had to, they would. Like if they're, I know they wouldn't, but if their ratings said you have to, well, then all of a sudden they would. So I don't know. I find them really funny. There's this whole side plot where where the woman there apparently sleeps with DiCaprio. Again, he could have cut that out and missed really nothing because it's not that important. And again, I guess I should say a couple things I don't like in this. So the only like two things I don't like is there's one running joke throughout where this guy has this app. The tech billionaire guy has this app who basically just kind of predicts your death, and then it predicts the death under some name like the Halawaka or whatever, and he's like, "Now I don't know what that is, but it's like," and later it turns out to just be an alien species that eats him or something, and eats like Meryl Streep. Now again, I don't really think the AI thing that doesn't know that alien species exist would all of a sudden be like the I don't know, but like that's the thing, is that it's like, that's one part I don't like, is that like the thing somehow predicts events that the AI doesn't even know that alien species exists enough to predict it. Because again, it would have to be on what it has in its database, and I guarantee you the database doesn't have the random alien species no one knew existed until the very last second of the film. So, and that's another thing too. So I guess to not confuse you, I guess I'll tell you what that's about. So in the very last scene, so basically the ending is, where the tech billionaire decides to mine. You can see the mining machine right there. He decides to mine the thing mid space for the minerals that he needs in it, and of course it malfunctions. And and what's funny isn't that it malfunctions, because it will. It's the way, like, it's the fact of like how amped they make it that it's obviously gonna work, and like and even though it isn't, it's basic. What makes the writing is what makes it funny. It's not that it's just, oh, it fails, that's funny. No, it's funny because it's written well. That's the thing. Is if this movie were written by anybody else besides Adam McKay, I think this movie would have really been terrible. I know this because I saw Space Force's sequel season, and it basically ends with a "Don't Look Up" thing where a meteorite's coming. We have to deal with it. And then I'm like, oh yay, we get to see the "Don't Look Up" thing, but written by but not written by as great of people as Adam McKay. So yeah, so basically the scene here of the mining is basically, it malfunctions, it falls apart, the asteroid's still coming, and then Meryl Streep just decides, I'm going to leave. She just kind of ducks out with the tech billionaire to go on his rocket and disappear on another planet and just kind of leave everybody. And again, that's even true to life, that like in the end, if there was an asteroid coming, they would just hop on a rocket and poof, gone. I believe that. Again, some movies would have where she's like really like sad and depressed, and she like drinks or something, and she's like, if only I had done more, if only I, some movies would have had it end there for her, but I'm glad that they have her like rocket off, and she even forgets her kid too, because she's just so amped to leave that she even forgets her own kid, just to show that she really doesn't care that much. So they go on the rocket, and while everybody else dies on Earth, they land on the alien planet. Now, here's the thing. It's a really funny joke that happens right as he lands, where the tech millionaire guy essentially says, well, we made it. 50% of us died, but, I think that's great for I think that's worth it to save humanity. And it's like, okay. Yeah, and I believe that. See, that's the thing. That's what's funny, is satire is funniest when you actually believe that, yes, I believe that person would do that, or that type of person would do that. It's not funny when you decide to just write off of what articles and comedians say about the person, and now it's just, whatever, like Twitter or something thinks of it, that's not that funny or something. But like when you write it in a way that people are like, yeah, I believe that's how that is. I believe that. I believe that. So they land on I don't know why they have to be naked though. That's the thing. They're for some reason all naked. I don't know why they couldn't just have like, I mean, the tech billionaire could have made like little uniforms for them or something. Even if he ended up ripping off Star Trek, it would have been something. Honestly, it would have been funnier if you ripped off Star Trek, and then she like looks down and it's like, hey, isn't this from? And he's like, from me? You mean from me and my copyrighted thing that I just signed to, because the Earth blew up, so now I'm the only one with the copyright of it. Anyway, there's a way to do that that's really funny. But no, they of course have to be naked for some reason. Don't know why, and they all die. They essentially all die because there's a random alien species on this planet they land on, and it eats them all, and they all die anyway. And again, it would have been funny if you hadn't foreshadowed the aliens. Because again, you don't have to foreshadow the aliens. It would have been funnier if like they think all these powerful people think they landed on an alien planet, and they're safe from all that other stuff, and then that they caused on Earth. And then now all of a sudden it's by not taking care of the asteroid and not trying to stop it sooner, So they've decided they're gonna go to this alien planet, and then now an alien thing just ends up taking them out. You know, like that would have been funny, and it could have even been funnier if like the tech billionaire somehow has a way to get off that planet too. Like he has a special pod that allows only him to rocket off that planet too, and then they die, and then it's just only him. That would have been funny too, but no, they try to foreshadow the aliens, which at the time when the like I said earlier, when the app predicts that the aliens are there, it doesn't really make sense because it's like, okay, you know, like how would they, you know, when you hear it at the time, you're like, what does that mean? And then later, and you think it's just a glitch in the system. But when it's, you know, but when you see the aliens, you're like, oh, the AI somehow was able to predict about an alien species that humanity has never come into contact before with and didn't know existed will eat, you know, like, will eat Meryl Streep and the tech billionaire and all the powerful people in the end of the movie. So it's like, I don't really understand how the AI was able to understand that from what is in its data. Would not know about this alien. So, and again, there's a lot, like, another thing I would say too is I think, here's what I'm going to say too. I think Timothy Chalamet could have been easily written out, very easily. I feel like he doesn't really have a purpose besides just being the teenage stoner kid, I guess. That's just kind of his thing in this. He's only here because they wanted to attract young people here, so they're like, we'll have Timothy Chalamet and Ariana Grande and Kid Cudi and all them. You know, we'll have all them. And it's like Kid Cudi and Ariana Grande are actually themselves. They're not even actors. They're just themselves. And that's the thing, is that like they're basically just they're the musicians that are being paid by Meryl to essentially tell people, do not look up. There's this whole campaign of do not look up. And honestly, tell me it wouldn't feel like a thing in real life. Like, tell me in real life there wouldn't be, if an asteroid's coming, there wouldn't be somebody on Earth that would be like, there's no asteroid. You can't prove that. The data doesn't show it. You know, I believe it. I believe it would happen. So then we get to another character that I think could have easily been cut out and miss like nothing. I think, honestly, as much as DiCaprio, they say, is the main character in this, I think you could have just gotten rid of him and just kind of had only Jennifer Lawrence be the one that's like the scientist who figures it out and everybody's not real. You know, because DiCaprio is only here because, well, I'll get to why he's here in a second, but you know, but I think he's kind of unnecessary in the end. Like, and I know you'll say, oh, but what about his family? That could have been her family. That could have been her sister or something that she ends up spending the dinner with at the end. And because there's an end scene where DiCaprio and his family and Timothy Chalamet all sit together at the dinner table with their boss and family, and essentially just do like a Thanksgiving thing where they're thankful to have their family and pray and pray that thank God that we had each other. And you know, it's honestly surprising that it would kind of end that way, especially from a Hollywood film, for them at least. I would have, you know, but anyway. And again, I guess because the writers didn't officially say that they're praying, that they're just only being thankful, I guess is how it was written. But is how they got away with it, I guess. But, you know, it's just like, I was surprised. I'm happy that it happened, you know, but it's like, it just shows that, like, but I think in the end, DiCaprio could have been removed. It could have just been Jennifer Lawrence as the scientist with her boss, and it could have just been, you know, and then his family could have just been her sister or something that she lives with. You know, she lives with her sister, and then, you know, then you could have had, like, just... Because, again, he doesn't do much. He just kind of yells he just kind of yells in scenes at the media people. He sleeps with that blonde girl just so he can have an affair. It just, you know, he tries to... get the online people to care, but then he ends up pissing them off too. It's like, you know, he ends up being with Discount Sesame Street. Like, it's like, why couldn't she do all this? Why couldn't she just, like, why couldn't she be the one that's standing next to Discount Sesame Street? And it would have been funny, because then she would have gotten upset by it, and then maybe even kick something on the set or something, because she's upset that, why do I have to stand next to, why do I need to campaign for this? Why can't we just save humanity or something? Why do we have to campaign for it? You know, that would have been a funny enough thing. But, you know, I just feel like you could have trimmed the budget on this by just having DiCaprio and Chalamet not in this. I understand Chalamet's only here because I guess he needed like 3 popular ones with the youth to be like, see, this movie's great. But don't worry, this is a film that Twitter and Facebook and Blue Sky we're very much happy. I know Blue Sky didn't exist yet, but this was a film that Twitter and Facebook were very gravitated to already. So it's not like, and again, they get this. Here's the thing. They kind of get like the social media satire down right. That like all the like, you know, like how social media is or something. They kind of get that down right too. And I know they'll say, "Oh no, it's one way," but I don't know. I don't know if I believe that completely. So I'm going to also say who I think was the best character in this film. I think Jonah Hill was. I think Jonah Hill was one of the funniest characters in this movie, because I think for the first time ever they let Jonah Hill be Jonah Hill. Because in a lot of films they try to make him like either like super intelligent or like super like, you know, or like super hard ass, and it's like, you know, like, or they try to like go these different directions with him. This is the first film that I've seen, I think, that actually has Jonah Hill being himself. So that's what's that. And he really plays the role perfectly, especially when some people say there are articles about him being one son of the president. I think he's another son of the president. And I think if you think it like that, I think it really is funny. I think it's really great satire if it's that one. If they're trying to say it's the other one, I don't think so. But I really believe deep down, I think Adam McKay was doing the one I think. You know? So, and then we have this guy. Now, again, do I even need to tell you who he is? Just look at his like red, white, and blue background and like the thing that says Patriot News at 5, you know, and tell me you can't tell who he is. Tell me you can't tell who he is. He doesn't really pop up enough to be in this. And I heard that Matthew Perry was supposed to be in this before he died, but I didn't really see him. So I guess they cut him out. That's a shame. I would have liked to have seen... I apparently heard that there was a lot of funny scenes with him. So, again, it might have been... Maybe the movie can release the deleted scenes of Matthew Perry and put that in like a bonus cut or something. Like a director's cut or something. Again, just look at that picture and tell me you can't tell who that is. Especially with this, too. Tell me you can't tell who that is either. Yeah, like, it's like, you know, or this. Or this. Yeah, like, it's like, you can tell who it is. You can tell very easily who it is. And, again, I think Adam McKay is, even though, again, like I said earlier, he wants it to be one thing, but I think it's another thing. And I just, you know, like, I think he does this accidentally a lot. Like, I've seen 2 different movies of his where he says, like, no, it's supposed to be this one thing on Twitter. And then he's like, or X, I guess now. But at the time, Twitter. And, but no, it's actually not that. You know? Like, this is another one. The movie Vice. I like the movie Vice, too. And I think it has the same kind of thing of this film, that it's like, that he wrote it to be one way, and then when you watch it, not thinking it the way he wants you to think it, and the way DiCaprio wants you to see it, and the way that, like, the actors in the movie want you to see it, versus how it's actually written, I think it's you know, more entertaining. If you watch it the way the director and Leonardo DiCaprio, you know what I mean. If you saw them in interviews, you know what I mean. If not, look up their interviews from back in the day and you'll see exactly what I mean. So, if you watch it the way they want you to watch it, you probably won't like it. If you watch it just ignoring them and kind of, like watching it as a film, you'll see something completely different. Something completely different. Same thing with the movie Vice. There's, the guy himself clearly wants to make one thing, and I think he ends up making option B by accident. I think this happens a lot with him, where like you can even tell the way he had interviews or something. He's like, no, I assure you, how I tweeted about it is how the movie is. Yeah, that's why it didn't win a single award. It might have won an award, a small one, but I remember it didn't really win any awards for some reason, which is weird because it's like if it's for one specific thing that he said on Twitter, then it feels like it would have gotten an award already, But the fact that, again, I think a lot more people watched it instead of just looking at what the director tweeted about it and kind of saw something completely different to the point where I think they were almost like no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that whole thing. There's even a scene where they charge him, where like there's like this top brass general who like charges Lawrence and DiCaprio for snacks that are free. Like even that's kind of funny in a way. And again, that sit tight and assess scene, if someone doesn't use that as a campaign ad someday, I'd be very surprised. So it's like, so like overall, it's I think this is a really great film. It's worth watching again. And, unlike modern day where I know this is a modern day movie, I know, but unlike current films that are trying to do the same thing, but just can't get past their own like Twitter feed or Blue Sky feed to do it. You kind of, and that's another thing too, is that it's like, like I was watching like movie news today or something, and I saw that like apparently Thunderbolts decided to change themselves to New Avengers after they already came out. That shows a film and see, that's the thing, is that at least that's why I like this film. And I think this film you could watch a decade from now and still be like, yes, yep, yeah, that's maybe a couple of the actors, maybe not, maybe a couple of the players that they intended it to be, maybe not, but I think the overall film will still be really, really connects to life even in like 2035 and 2045. I still think it will. I still think people will nod their heads and be like, I do think that. So, and and that shows like great like actual satire versus Hollywood's quote unquote satire. Because like the movie Campaign from 2012 or the 1980s movie They Live, like those are other two favorites of mine that basically have like like they don't really have like stances, but like if you really watch it, I guess you could find one. But overall, it's like like I think like the Campaign, Don't Look Up, and They Live version is better than the Captain America Brave New World or Mickey 17 or SNL or like even South Park sometimes. Like it's like, as much as I'll review the new South Park season when it comes out, I'm still I'm still gonna be critical to it if it's bad. I'm gonna say it. I am. So that's just what I mean. Is that it's like, so again, this is what actual satire is, and this even started a whole like kind of thing on Netflix where like every year there'll be like that one sci-fi movie that's trying to be satire at New Year's. And I think the problem is that this film's so good that it ends up that the other films, I forget what they were called after this, but there were like 3 or 4 films that came after it that were clearly written just because, you know, Don't Look Up was popular, so we have to make another version. They aren't as great because, again, they're more in the Twitter blue sky mentality than they are in like everyday mentality. So overall, it's a really great film. I think you should watch it again if you haven't. And sorry, the computer wasn't obeying me a little bit. There you go. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.